Hi, students and families. Mr. Kelly here. I want to spend a few minutes talking about grading and learning in English this year because it'll look a little different than some of your other classes. So, I'm going to talk about kind of why I believe what I believe about learning, and then we'll get into what grading will look like in English class this year. So, one of my big frustrations for a number of years has been kind of this push and pull between grading and learning. As an educator, I really want the focus in my classroom to be on learning, to be on growth, to be on practice. But we also have to give grades, right? And grades are important for a number of reasons. We have eligibility for athletics. We have, those of you that are moving beyond high school to maybe a college that requires good grades, right? There's lots of good, important reasons why grades are important. But sometimes, as a result, the purpose of school becomes get a good grade rather than learn, practice, and grow. And I'm really in the learn, practice, and grow camp. So, what I've tried to do, starting with my final master's project back in 2016, is I've really tried to set my grading system up a little differently to focus more on learning and less on grades. And this is just a quick comparison about learning and grades and some differences that as I see them anyway. I think that with grading, if we just focus on our grades, then mistakes are really punished. If you make a couple of mistakes on an assignment, you get a lower grade as a result. The flip side of that is that the best learning and growth often comes from learning from a mistake. Grades can be not healthy or stressful too. It's grades are important. It's important to want to do well, but it's not healthy to check Skyward 5 to 10 times a day, to have it on the app on your phone. You're checking it every class. Oh no, I lost 7 points on this assignment. What can I do? That can create a lot of unnecessary mental stress for students and for their families. And families, by this point in time, sometimes there's the stress of trying to get your student to care about their grade as much as you do. And so I think it can create a lot of stress if we care too deeply and too much about them. And high school is a stressful enough place without constantly worrying about all of your grades in your 6 different classes. On the flip side of that, giving up can be really easy too. If all you do is look at grades and especially points being averaged, and you notice, hey, it's November and I have a 45% in this class, I probably can't pass. Then suddenly giving up becomes really easy. Oh, there's no hope. I guess I'll give up. I guess I'll do summer school. I guess I'll try next year. And I don't love allowing students to kind of give up in the semester and not do the learning. And then I mentioned averages a little bit, but an average can be super unclear as well. A B doesn't communicate effectively what you can or cannot do. So instead, in my classes, I really try to focus on learning. I want students to make mistakes because I think you learn best from making mistakes, right? And then revising those mistakes and fixing those mistakes. And that really builds student problem solving skills and student agency. Because if the expectation is, hey, you're going to make some mistakes and then we need to figure out how to fix them, that is a very transferable skill to lots of things beyond high school, right? You're going to have a job where, oh, shoot, this thing went wrong. We didn't want it to, but it did. And now what do we do? And I really want students to be able to respond not only to their successes, but also to times in their life when they were not as successful for some reason. Also, focusing on learning and not on grades and averages means that I can always allow students an opportunity to succeed. Sometimes you get the question, oh, Mr. Cowley, do you have any extra credit? No, but I've got plenty of regular credit. Go back, fix your mistakes, learn from your mistakes, reflect on your learning, and then you can be successful in English, even if you don't get it right the first couple of times. And then in English, and you'll see this in the syllabuses as well, we will focus on 4 to 5 essential standards every semester. And these are things that a student has to meet standard on in order to earn credit for the class. So that at least a passing grade communicates, well, at least I can do these things at some kind of minimum standard, minimum level. And you know what? If you don't get it right the first time, that's okay. You have more attempts to keep revising, to keep learning, to keep practicing until you do get it. So this is going to look like a lot of practice, but not a lot of points. I will still grade things in Skyward, but it will mostly be based on completion, right? Students are going to receive feedback from me on the work that they've done so that they can learn, so they can grow, so they can improve. Often that feedback will be while you are working on an assignment rather than after you're done with it. So sometimes that's conferencing in the middle of the class period or making comments on a Google Doc while you're actually working on it. Grades in Skyward then will be a pass, a P, or a fail until the final semester portfolio and reflection. And I'll talk more about that in just a minute. Expectation is that you're here every day, you're learning, you're practicing, you're growing, right? So those expectations have not changed, even if everything isn't for a grade, out of 10 points like you might be used to. So the final semester grading conferences, these are the other difference, and this really came out of my master's work again. Uh, you Because we use Google Classroom, all of the work that you do this semester and all of the feedback on that work will be saved because it will live on Google Classroom. And so that's really important because at the end of the semester, I'm going to ask you to reflect on all of the work that you've done for the entire semester. And you will have to answer some questions. And the big three questions that I always ask students are, what evidence do you have that you've met all your essential standards? Well, your evidence then is those assignments. Did you meet standard on them or not? And if you haven't met standard on them, then you keep working until you do. You keep revising, you keep getting feedback, you keep practicing, you keep growing and learning. And then what evidence you have of growth throughout the semester. So look back at the assignments we were doing in September. How have you changed and improved as a reader or a writer or speaker or thinker in in those 90 days of school or so? And then what evidence do you have of effort throughout the semester, right? You don't get better at something without practicing it. So what evidence do you have that you're here, that you're completing assignments, that you're trying your best, that you're reflecting on things? And again, that evidence is the work that you do. Now, after you fill out this reflection, you collect some samples of your best work, then the student and myself will sit down and have a one-on-one conference for 3 to 5 minutes usually. And during that conference, the student will propose a grade. I think based on all of the work that I've done, based on the evidence, this is the grade I should have for the semester. And then we'll talk about that, come to an agreement, right? Ultimately, I'm the arbiter in the room. So if I don't think you're where you want to be grade wise, then I'll probably say, hey, I don't think we're quite there yet. Why don't we focus on working on these couple of things and see if you can get there by the end of the semester? Um, there is a threshold though, and that is if students aren't completing the big projects for some reason, right, which you can totally do in a different class that has averages, right? You can fail a test or an essay and still get a pretty decent grade. But for my class, if you have not completed and met standard on all of the big projects we do throughout the semester, then you can still pass English, but the highest grade you can get is a C plus. So just bear that in mind as we're going through this. And then inside Skyward, I'll have different categories. Non-graded assessments are just for informational purposes. That'll be 0%. Classwork is going to be 1% of your final grade, and it's based on completion, a 1 or a 0. Projects then, so big essential standards, writing an essay, participating in a presentation or a debate, things like that. Those are going to be 2 points. And a 2 means you have met this standard. A 1 means you've turned it in, it's complete, but you haven't met standard yet. Please keep working on it. Please keep revising it. And then a 0 out of 2 just means you either turned in half of it or you didn't turn anything at all. Other big projects for freshmen, our self-symbolism project, for example, those are going to be worth 1 point, and it'll be, again, completion or not. And then the way that you earn a letter grade, the way that we get out of pass fail, is by completing that final semester portfolio that I've talked about already. And that's worth 92% of your grade, but really it's worth 100% of your grade because all you're doing in that is reflecting, thinking about your learning and growth, and then thinking about everything that we've done in class. So it's not like classwork and projects are worth a tiny bit of your grade. Really, those things are going to show up in your final semester reflective portfolio. So that's how you get a letter grade in English. And hopefully, I've shared some of my thoughts and philosophies and the reason why My grade book might look a little different than somebody else's. But as always, I welcome questions. I welcome dialogue. So if you have concerns, if you don't understand something, or you're worried about something, please, please, please reach out to me. Email is by far the best way, callieJ@woodlandschools.org. And, I look forward to working with all of you this year. And if you have questions, please let me know. Thank you.